All right, man, these are just so unfun. But here we are, second time this year. Virginia Tech has fallen at home to the Scarlet Knights of Rutgers. Virginia Tech lost 26-23. And we got a lot to talk about. I got a lot of notes. I got a lot of thoughts. I got a lot of feelings about the game. Also, some thoughts and feelings about the town of Blacksburg. We arrived in Friday. We're out and about in Blacksburg the entire weekend. A lot to talk about, Patrick. How are you?
Embarrassed. I'm pretty embarrassed. Virginia Tech fans should be embarrassed. Virginia Tech got embarrassed again on Saturday. However, we're going to break it down on this podcast. We're going to start it off with Paul Patera with his Hokie haiku. It can't only be jumping to enter Sandman. You got to win games.
It's so true. And we talked about this after the West Virginia game a couple of years ago. When I talk to people, I love that Enter Sandman is such a special and nationally relevant thing. I just can't stand that it's really the thing right now. Incredible day, fall day in Blacksburg. Awesome crowd. Everybody wore white. The whiteout looked great. And it's just kind of the same story that it's been for a while here. Rutgers came in. Let's not even talk about the game yet. We got to talk about the game day, and then we'll get into the game. Sorry, I'm like itching to just get going on the game. But let's talk about game day quick.
And it's so hard to talk about game day because it's like, oh yeah, the weather was nice, and it's just like
It was
sick. Enter Sandman was fun.
Yeah,
the whiteout looked nice. I bought this new white hat from Alumni Hall. The flyover was really awesome.
It was late.
After 2 flyovers in consecutive games. I mean, we're partying like it's 2003 again. I feel like we were always doing the flyovers. This one, though, Billy Ray, I know you did remark. A little south to north. Usually they're coming from the north.
Yeah, it was different. It was 3 Black Hawk helicopters. It looked great. Went from south to north, which was a little bit of a throw off. And again, came super late. I do want to tip my cap that the Sandman was better. I will say that the Chief to Johnny Cash did have a bit of a hookup, a little bit of a hiccup. The timing was off again. I think we're still figuring it out. Kind of like our offense. We're still like figuring it out, trying to get it right. But it was much better than last time. So well done.
I was a little. I'd say it was a B. Was it Johnny Cash came before Chief?
Yeah, and then they stopped it.
So Eric Church came back, Outsiders came back, and then it went back in. So it was like the cue was reversed. My issue, I thought the acapella for Enter Sandman was top notch. Like it was freaking loud. People were ready to play. My gripe, Put On by Jeezy usually comes on right after the Enter Sandman acapella, and I couldn't hear it. It came on, but they didn't put on the volume for Put On. It's like, hey, please turn it up. I think there was a lot of issues with the stadium volume all day, where it was either too loud or too quiet.
I need when the Put On comes on, the boom, 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 boom. That needs to almost like knock people's socks off.
It needs to scare me like the skipper cannon scares people just at random points on game day when it goes off.
A couple other observations. Kevin Jones may have had the most fired up "Let's Go" chant ever. He was screaming. He was like high stepping. I mean, it was pretty intense. And this was kind of like when we had bought in on like, oh my God, we might actually come back and win this football game. And I do want to say the crowd was on fire in the fourth quarter. Like there were several times I looked around and I said, wow, it is extremely loud. Because in that first quarter, I think everybody kind of saved their breath and everything. A lot of sitting. I know you're about to talk about the seat backs, but there was a lot of sitting and a lot of just not reasons to be excited in that first half. I was shocked at how many people stayed after that first half performance. But in that fourth quarter, when the defense was on the field, it was deafening in there. It was very, very loud.
Yeah, it was discouraging. I think most of the game, the whole middle part of the game, where a lot of people had left. When we had that fumble, I know we're going to talk about the fumble on the 22-yard line in the third quarter when they were up 23-7. You're like, all right, they're going to punch it in. It's going to be 30-7 with, a quarter and a half left in the ball game. I wanted to get the heck out of there. I wanted to leave the football game. I was like, all right, let's watch the end of this possession. Let's see what happens. And, probably want to head towards the exit. I
gotta be honest, I don't want to leave you alone on that take. I'm with you. Like I really never, I don't think ever in my Lane Stadium career did I consider leaving a game early. And I did not. Stayed for the whole game. But this game.
Did you just say you did not stay for the whole game?
No, I did stay for the whole game. I'm saying okay. I've never
I'm just trying to make sure you sounded clear on the airwaves there.
Okay, thank you. I did stay to the end of the game. But there were several points during the game where I had just kind of accepted that we're going to lose. And it's just like, by how many points are we going to lose and how quickly can this game be over? Now, granted, the team fought back and made it a game at the end, but it's probably the most dejected I've felt for the majority of the football game that I can remember. I wasn't at Duke 2019 in Lane Stadium. I think there are a lot of parallels for how people feel after that Duke 2019 game.
I spent probably like 75% of the game like this, with my hands on my head like this, like the surrender cobra. And when we were crawling back into the game, like it was kind of just like, I don't believe this, but I feel like we're going to figure out a way to mess this up. But back to the seat backs, the seat backs encourage sitting.
They do.
That's really what it is. The seat backs encourage people to sit down, whether it's comfortable or whether it's not. I felt like the bad guy because I was the only one in the section standing up, and I'm screaming up. I'm screaming up, 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 because everyone is seated. And if you're gonna be in there, I'm not going to tell you how to be a fan, but
we do encourage standing.
in our section, we like it when you stand. And here's the thing: why should you stand when the product on the field is just such an under deliver on any expectations of what it should be?
Yeah,
this fan base does not owe that product anything. This fan base can sit all they want because the product is a sitting product as of right now. When you mount a comeback, obviously you're going to get people on their feet. You're going to get people screaming their heads off, which was happening because the players earned that back. The team earned that back. But that's kind of just the reality of it. It was really, really tough. And I felt like a part of me just died on Saturday. A part of my, I know it sounds a little bit dramatic. A part of my fandom died on Saturday.
Wow. It's the most dejected I've ever felt. Real quick before we move off the seat backs, I do want to say I don't like them. Please stop sending pictures of you sitting, not you, but a lot of people are sending pictures of I can't fit and your legs are like next to each other. Yes, obviously, if you put your legs next to each other and forward, they're probably going to hit the back. Sometimes you just got to spread them a little bit.
No.
Hit that man spread.
No, you can't spread them if the person next to you can't just have two people spreading next to each other.
Yeah, you can in the little gap.
No,
I think some of the pictures that we're getting look a little like set up to make it look super small. I don't think the chairs are uncomfortable personally. I'm 6'4", and I can sit in them.
No, it's not the chair itself, I think is measurably comfortable. It's not that. It's the where do I put my legs that makes it uncomfortable.
I haven't had a problem. I'm 6'4". Maybe you have longer legs than me.
You also stood 99% of the time.
That's true. That's true.
So
one last point before we get to the game. I don't think anyone in the world is cooler than Tyrod Taylor. Like, he was inducted in the Hall of Fame. He's super cool. Like, just that's my commentary. There's nobody cooler than that guy.
He perched up at the back of the golf cart, chilling, doing a cool let's go at the beginning of the game. Whatever he was wearing, that like mesh Virginia Tech colored. I don't think it was Virginia Tech branded, but he had
like a random high school.
He had some cool like practice jersey on that was a little faded. You could tell it was like 1990s, early 2000s, and it just was so cool. So I don't even have words for it.
Let's talk about the game. My theme is just unprepared. We were outcoached, we were outjuiced, we were outscored, came out completely flat. You blink and it's 14-0. Really just a total, just a completely kicked in the teeth. And we're going to get into kind of like, I think a huge part of the storyline for this football game is if Virginia Tech somehow came back and won the game, you would say, wow, Schiano made a couple of questionable decisions. I think a lot of things had to happen for us to get back into this football game. But again, the problem is, but Virginia Tech for the first time this season won the second quarter. So that's progress. But we come out again, and I'm asking, like, what exactly is going on Sunday to Friday? Like, what is going on? Because we come out and look so flat and so unprepared, and like there's not really a plan. It's kind of like, all right, we're here to play a football game. Let us get a little warmed up, and then we'll get going around the third quarter. It's an awful process.
Like, do we need to kick off at 7:30 or 8 o'clock instead of 3:30 p.m.? You know that bit that Nick Saban does? I'm not calling it a bit. It's a real clip. It's not a bit. Where Nick Saban describes the difference between good, great, excellent, and elite.
Expand. I don't know if I have.
I do want to know how practice is. Did we have a good practice? If Virginia Tech is having a good practice, that is not good enough. Like, we need to have some standards. Like, Nick Saban, if you are not elite, you are failing. And to come out unprepared again there has been flaws in all 4 games that we have played. We're freaking 500, and we got to go to Miami on Friday. Where is the demand for excellence? If there's a demand for excellence Monday through Friday, there's probably not a conversation on Saturday's presser about having a slow start or being sluggish or being unprepared. Is that happening in practice? That's not a question I can answer. That's not a question you can answer. But I don't know if Nick Saban ever got in front of a mic and said, hey, we were unprepared.
It's I don't know what has to happen to fix it. I just know that this is 4 weeks of the same problem. As far as causes of concern go, I know I just alluded to this. 26-23 was not indicative of the football game that we watched. Rutgers won time of possession, 40-20, 40 minutes to 20 minutes. They doubled us up. They ran 23 more plays than we ran. They won the turnover battle 3-1. And this is where I think, Schiano gets in a little bit of hot water if they lose the game. Rutgers missed a 36-yard field goal. They fumbled inside our 10-yard line to basically help us avoid going down 21-7. This was the fumble play where the guy almost scores and ends up fumbling. They turned it over on downs on the 1-yard line in the third quarter, and they also missed a 53-yard field goal. So, you're looking at a minimum 7, 10, 13 points, probably more than that. And again, 26 to 23 is just not indicative of where we were. Other causes for concern, our body language is so poor. It is so poor. I know there are a couple of guys, it's usually Aeneas Peoples. I saw it a little bit with Caleb Woodson. I think it was Keyshawn Burgos. Like the defensive guys get fired up. We just look so despondent. And it's not only on the field, it is on the sideline as well. I know you wanted to talk a little bit about the sideline at Rutgers. Like, I thought it was corny, honestly. They did like a defense on the sideline, but at least they're like involved. Like their sideline, the amount of juice, it is so infectious. Like I have my issues with Greg Schiano and, he's a little shtickish and whatever, but his intensity and his personality and his, again, shtick, the chop thing, every player runs off the field when they're forcing a punt, doing the chop, getting excited. Every single player, when somebody makes a play, the 4 or 5 guys are meeting them on the hash. It's just, they look like they're having so much fun to play football, which is a game, with their teammates. They know where they're supposed to be. They are, it is night and day, doubled entendre, night and day between both sidelines. And I'm still waiting to get back to having the swagger, body language, love for playing. I know these guys don't want to lose, our team. I know that they hope that they love playing football. But you don't see that on the sideline. You don't see that for 4 quarters in between the lines when the whistle's not being blown. It looks like they almost, instead of getting to play a football game, it's like we have to play a football game. That's just what it looks like compared to we sit on the sideline with the visitors team. There's a clear difference,
Last year at home, external of, the Purdue anomaly and what we saw against NC State, this team played with purpose and they played with swagger under the bright lights of Lane Stadium. It's not there right now. It's not there right now. And I don't know what is different from last year. We were riding all of the momentum in the world. This year, for whatever reason, it's not here. We don't have it yet. Terrell Smith, Virginia Tech, former offensive lineman. I mean, he might have one of the best picks in Virginia Tech history. I guess one of the hardest picks in Virginia Tech history. Yeah. If you guys were there, 2021 in Charlottesville, this was the UVA. Brennan Armstrong throws it to the left tackle, 5 yard behind the line of scrimmage game, where we did we take the cup back this year? No, we had the cup back, but we went in Charlottesville in 2021. Terrell Smith is waving the Virginia Tech flag at midfield and plants it like Baker Mayfield did in the shoe. And it's the best pick I've ever seen in my entire life. Since I know he was on the staff at Tech, but since then he's been at Boise State, and now he is on the staff at Rutgers. So he's there on the sideline, and he's getting so pumped, so fired up, getting everyone on the sideline fired up. And Juice was bringing the juice.
Yeah.
And I just don't know where that is on the other side of the field, in front of 66,000 Virginia Tech fans who absolutely love being in that building.
Couple other things. Are we in shape, like as a football team? I noticed I've been talking about our like rotations with wide receivers, and I tried to really pay attention to it this week. It seems like if our wide receivers run back-to-back routes, they're gassed and have to come out of the game. This is something that people have been talking about for the last couple of weeks, kind of alluding to our conditioning. And I am a little curious if we're in the shape that we need to be in. I know that we're banged up right now. Obviously, Ali Jennings and Bashal Tutin and some other guys are nicked up. But, I mean, purely from a cardio standpoint, it looks like an issue.
2016, Isaiah came and Bucky. They
never came out of the game.
They would play the entire game from beginning to end.
They never came out.
And you knew who's going to be out there, and they'd each go up and grab 8 catches each, and it would be awesome.
Yeah.
And we're just seeing rotate. And I'm not a football guy, but I would imagine that it interrupts the flow.
Mm-hmm.
It interrupts the sync between quarterback and wide receiver.
Yeah.
If you got a different guy out there every single play.
And then turning the page to the offense, we're going to talk about the offense now. The speed at which our offense moves. I understand, and I'm not sticking up here necessarily for our offensive line. Our offensive line has challenges. Don't disagree with you whatsoever. Can we do something to help them out? Where is quick game? Where is tempo? And my point is tempo. The speed at which our offense moves is so slow. And when I think of teams who run really slow offense, they come up to the line with 10 seconds left and then get under center or get in the shotgun and start kind of their cadence. I think of teams like Michigan. I think of teams like Wisconsin. I think of teams like Iowa. I think of LSU back when Les Miles was there. They're teams that are going to walk up to the line of scrimmage, punch you in the mouth, and dominate the line of scrimmage and run the ball. That is not what Tech is capable of doing. It's not. We need to, in my opinion, for this offense to be where it needs to go, you need to see a lot more tempo. I think the reason that we don't or can't is either because we're not in shape to do so, or we're afraid of putting the defense back on the field again, but they're already spending the majority of the football game on the field. So, these are some causes for concern. Speaking of the offense specifically, first drive, 3 and out. And immediately, again, when I say unprepared, the scripted drive, the drive that we ran for our game against Rutgers, you had a whole week to prepare. It's a Jalen Lane run. It's a 4-yard pass, and it's an incompletion. And we're giving the ball right back to Rutgers in 30 seconds of game time. It is so demoralizing the amount of times we see 3 and outs on our offense. It's just far too much. When we try to do anything, it looks difficult. It looks difficult to move the ball in any capacity on the offensive side of the ball. So, I know you're about to talk about the lack of Tootin usage, but that first drive all week, we're saying, let's get Tootin involved. Let's get some of this quick game. Let's attack the middle of the field. And in 3 plays, we're off and punting the ball back right back to Rutgers.
Really upsetting to this guy. We talked about it on the pregame, right? We got Kyle Monangai. We got Bashal Tootin. It's the battle of New Jersey running backs. And Bashal Tootin has had 2 consecutive 100-yard outings and was criminally underused in Nashville. 9 carries in Nashville. Bashal Tootin's the best player on this football team. Argue with a wall, please. If you don't think Bashal Tootin is the best player on our football team, I can't have a discussion. But the lack of usage in the first quarter. I look up at the clock, and there's 59 seconds left in the quarter, and Bashal Tootin has gotten the ball 1 time. I think Bashal might have to fact check me on this one. I don't think Tootin got the ball until we were down 14-0.
I think that's right. I mean, we obviously lost out on a drive, but we were 5 minutes, and I think he got his first carry at 5 minutes and 30 seconds. I had that written down.
I had 3 minutes and 50 seconds, so maybe we flip-flopped that. But regardless, objectively speaking, he was underused in the first quarter.
100%.
Now, Bashal Tootin, know he's banged up. I know he's banged up. I also know he ran for 122 yards on 15 carries and 3 touchdowns. 20% of the time he touched the ball, he finished in the end zone.
2 things on
I'm offended by that. I am offended by that.
2 things on his health. Number 1, I don't know what's going on with him. If he's healthy enough to play, I hope he plays. And if he's not healthy enough and should not be playing, I hope he doesn't play, because I think he has a very bright future in his career. He is the best player on this football team. And if he's healthy enough to play, he has to be featured. he has to be featured because we don't seem to have, I don't know if it's a trust thing or what it is, but we don't seem to want to give the ball to anybody else. If it's not Tootin or Drones carrying the ball, doesn't seem to have any, we don't seem to have any interest in making that happen. And that's fine if you're going to use Tootin because he's your best player and you want to get him the ball as much as you possibly can. Anyway,
I know I skipped over this in the notes, but it was really tough. Looking up at the scoreboard, we're down 14-0. Bashal Tootin has touched the ball 3 times. 2 of those times were inside of 1 minute to go in the quarter. We're down 14-0 to Rutgers, a team that beat us last year. Rutgers. And Shut Up and Dance comes on the audio. And if you know me, and if you listen to this podcast or follow us on the X app, that song is the opposite of Virginia Tech football. Okay? You want to run the football down the opposition's throat, and you want to play good defense. Shut Up and Dance is the song that usually makes me shut up and leave. So that was just a really, really challenging, however long it was on, maybe 1.5 minutes, where I was just standing there like this, and I was like, oh my God, we are a G5 program.
What also added insult to injury on that is after Shut Up and Dance was then the Hokey Pokey. So we are down 14-0 against Rutgers. After Shut Up and Dance, we then do the Hokey Pokey, and we didn't turn ourselves around until like the fourth quarter.
But
really,
you can't turn yourself around because the seat backs. There's no room to do the dance. So you're trying to shut up and dance, and you can't even dance.
Yeah. So this is 3 straight 100-yard efforts for Bashal Tootin. Again, far and away, isn't just the best player on the team. He's the best player on the field. He completely outclassed Kyle Monungai. Kyle Monungai, we held him for under 100 yards. Bashal Tootin had 3 touchdowns in this football game.
You know what I'd like to just, and then we'll put the Tootin thing to bed.
Yeah.
He's clearly the nucleus of this offense. 3 straight 100-yard efforts. He has 8 touchdowns on the year. Like, if we use
8
them
touchdowns on the year is crazy. 2 touchdowns a game is crazy.
If we use him the right way, he's knocking on Lee Suggs and Ryan Williams, type efforts for a year. And that's actually a reality. Like, that's how good this guy is. And we don't use him in the passing game, and he is not given the ball at all on that final drive for what we saw on the final drive, which is super disappointing.
I don't want this to get clipped, but I do want to share it because it's out there. They asked Bashal Tootin what happened in the fourth quarter where the offense really turned a corner. And he said, we started playing our brand of football. And also Tebow, our offensive coordinator, was calling the game the way we wanted it to be called. So he clarified after, and he said he wasn't at all blaming play calling. He was talking about the offense as a whole. But there is a clear difference from when it's not like we're running the same scheme over and over and over and over again, and then the dam just breaks on the defense. Like, we make adjustments at halftime that seem to be effective, and then the offense shows up to play in the second half. I just don't understand how it's so bad in the first half every single week. Every single week, it's open heart surgery watching our team try to do stuff on offense in the first half. I have never been as upset after a quarter of football than the first quarter. It was despondent. Like, it was like, I can't. Pat, I was right there with you. I had my hat and I was burying my face in my hat and just like staring at the ground. Like, I couldn't believe it.
I'm looking around and seeing friends in section 129, formerly section 5, that I haven't seen, since graduation, or, here and there since graduation. And I'm like, oh man, they came. If this is the one game a year they're coming for, like, I'm so sorry.
RIP.
I was so upset after that first quarter and that first half. I mean, halftime score 16-9, but it was a 9-point differential. It might as well have been
16-7. We were down 9.
16-7. We were down 9. That 9 points felt like 90 points.
Oh yeah.
Like it just
100%.
felt so far away. We had the safety, which Billy's going to talk about, and we just couldn't put anything together offensively. And just, I mean, talking to some folks, Nick Cullen, Andy Newman at halftime were like, hey guys, keep the faith. Got a lot of football to play, 30 minutes for the rest of our lives here. Might need a miracle to pull this one out. And instead, Rutgers gets the ball. We surrender an early touchdown and then fumble in our territory right after getting the ball. And it's 23-7 at this point, thinking they're going to punch it in. We turn them over on downs and outscore Rutgers 16-10 overall in the second half. We have 2 heroic drives where we kind of figure out, like Tootin was saying, figure out our brand of football, utilizing everyone, running the football with Tootin. Drones gets loose for a big gain, 30-plus yard gain. Jay Lane, Aiden Green, Felton, Gosnells, everyone's getting the love. Tootin has some really nice touchdown runs. The one where he went all the way outside and he just used his speed to turn the corner. Like, he's so good at that, running around the edge. And then we have some unbelievable efforts by the Gosnells to secure our 2-point conversions. I mean, this is a fan base that has had some tough 2-point conversions in our time. I'm thinking the Sugar Bowl in 2004 against Auburn. If you were there, if you watched, what are the odds of a team scoring back-to-back drives, back-to-back touchdowns, and back-to-back 2-point conversions in the same quarter to the same gene pool? Pretty impressive. I probably 1 in a million. We went to First Watch for lunch today. They got all the $1 million burgers, the $1 million bacon, the $1 million potatoes. Those were $2 million opportunities that the Gosnells cashed in on.
By the $1 million bros. I mean, I can't say enough positive things about Benji and Country Steve. They're so good. They catch every ball that's thrown to them. Benji has improved dramatically as a blocker since the beginning of the year. So yeah, I mean, a couple of things before we flip it over to the defense. We'll just talk about the post game here. Getting the ball to other players has been a challenge. Daquan Felton has 10 receptions for 74 yards on the year. Ollie Jennings, who did not play yesterday, has 4 catches for 117 yards. I don't know where XTB is. I don't. I haven't seen him. So we're having trouble getting other players the ball. It's the Kyron Drone show and it's the Bashal Tootin show. Country Steve, Jalen Lane, and Benji. That's it. But some of these other guys who, we weren't talking about this wide receiver room being as good as the 2016 team was. There were a lot of people that were. And I'm right here. You said it was as deep. No, you said it was as deep.
My comments were on the
comparing. You were not just comparing it to the 2016 team. I do disagree with you with the depth. I would encourage you to go look at the depth. But a lot of people were saying this wide receiver room is as good as 2016, which was crazy then. And this is why. You have to do it on Saturday. And, for us to do it, we have to find a way to get these guys the ball. I'll wrap up this offensive conversation by talking about Kyron Drones. And I just want to say I feel for the guy. I really do. I really feel for the guy. I think he is absolutely, unquestionably not 100%. I'm shocked he didn't break his ankle on the safety play where he got rolled up on. He's had a couple of plays where he's been in really bad predicaments with his limbs. And I think has gotten really lucky. So he's definitely not 100%. I think his confidence, obviously, as anyone's would, is not great right now. He was 13 of 27 for 137 through the air. He was 9 carries for 60 yards. He had the interception and he had the fumble. And again, look, the offensive line, it hasn't been good. But can we do something to help him out? Like, Can we stop with the passing within the pocket to deeper routes? We don't move the pocket. We don't have a lot of quick game. In 2016, 2017, we ran a ton of quick game because you're taking the offensive line completely out of the formula. It's quarterback catches ball, quarterback throws ball to wide receiver, and you put him in space, make him make a play. The only type of quick game we seem to have is screens. That's kind of the only way that we're involving quick game. So I feel for Kyron. I'm not going to come out in here and say Kyron's playing awful. Kyron hasn't got – it's hard to evaluate him given all of these challenges, given the constant rotation at wide receiver, the lack of blocking that he has. I don't even understand the scheme at this point. So I'm hoping it gets better. But I have a really hard time placing a lot of the blame pie on Kyron Drones. So shifting it over to the defense – I'll call it what it was. Not awful. Given the time of possession and the amount of time we asked the defense to be on the field, we knew what the assignment was. It was Kyle Monangai. He was held to 84 yards on 26 carries. That's 3.2 yards per carry and 1 touchdown. The defense did a phenomenal job containing Kyle Monangai.
If you would have told me that Monangai would get 26 carries, I would probably say, hey, he's going for $130. They did a really good job of keeping him in check. That first touchdown was a great play call.
It really was. It really was. They had 2 awesome play calls. I had seen it before. I just hadn't seen it in a college game. It was 3rd and goal at the 1 yard line. They did a fake tush push and a sneak around to Monangai. It was the best call of the game, in my opinion. Crowd is absolutely on fire. We tie the game. Everybody's feeling fantastic. Rutgers gets the ball with 4 minutes and 33 seconds left on their own 25. They ran a screen to Ian Strong into the side that we were bringing pressure. It could not have been a better play call. It could not have come at a better time. 63 yards sets up their game-winning field goal. So 2 amazing calls by Rutgers coaching staff. Really, the biggest issue with our defense was there was one play that beat us all afternoon, and it was the rollout triple option play through the air. So the quarterback would Kakamitis or whatever his name was, would take the snap. He reads the defensive end on a give to the running back, and then he usually boots, by the way, to the wide side of the field, which is smart. And he has the option to tuck it or to dump it off to a tight end or a wide receiver or a slot that's crossing over. And honestly, all year, any type of option has given us trouble. And Rutgers put a little bit of a flair on it, and we weren't able to figure it out. When it got better was when we finally switched from zone to man, but it was far too late. I don't understand why a team that has 2 legitimate bona fide NFL type cornerbacks on their team and we continue to run zone. We got absolutely torched by a bad quarterback finding guys sitting in our zone over and over and over again. Dymere Miller and Ian Strong both finished with 200 yards on 9 catches. So all of that said, I think that the defense played really well against one of the best players, in my opinion, in the Big Ten, Kyle Monangai. He might be one of the best running backs in the country. And they did a great job keeping him in check, especially with what they were asked to do. A couple of guys I want to shout out. APR is tied for the nation's top sack getter. He has 5.5 sacks. He's one of 3 players in the country that have 5.5 sacks. I think Josh Fuga played really, really well, got a ton of penetration, played awesome. And Caleb Woodson has been great ever since stepping into that starting role. He had 10 tackles, which was second. He had 1.5 tackles for loss. He played a great game. If you were wondering who our leading tackler was, it was our safety, Mose Phillips.
Talked about that on the preview, Ray.
So, yeah. Special teams, I got to be honest, Jay Patel kind of sucks. Not very good. Had a really rough afternoon, missed that 34-yard kick. So I said in the preview, I wasn't going to pretend to act like I knew how good he was. He wasn't that good. But he did make the field goal when it counted. Yeah, I guess he doesn't suck. He just wasn't great for most of the game, but he made the one that he needed to make. So, that's it.
I know Rich Luddenberger would have made that one too, though.
He would have.
What was it, 25-yard? It was a chip shot.
It was a chip shot.
But hey, 2 minutes left in the game, tie game, hostile environment. The crowd was on fire, like you said. So you got to tip your cap to Jay. Jay was special in that moment. Our special teams have not been special this year. Here's what happened in the last 4 games. Vanderbilt, 2 number zeros on the same play, essentially lost us the football game. Marshall, we allow a punt block in our own territory, and they punch it in. The first and goal right after blocking that punt. Very well schemed, very well executed. However, it still happened, and it shouldn't. ODU, we had a field goal blocked. Did that happen last week?
It was either tipped or I firmly believe that John Love had it tipped. That's my opinion. I've heard conflicting things, and it also was the game was shot on a potato. But yeah.
And then you can't have a first quarter blunder on special teams with I guess it wasn't a muffed punt, right? I know Jay Lane took a few steps, and then I didn't really see a clear replay of that either. Ed,
I did.
Hey guys, I saw it. It was out.
So I disagree. I actually think that what happened is his wrist versus his hand hit the ground and caused the fumble. But ultimately, what we're looking at on special teams is the game is lost against Vanderbilt largely because of special teams. Marshall, you give up 7 points. ODU will just wash it. We'll say whatever. Maybe it was blocked, maybe it wasn't. And then the Rutgers game, the fumbled punt return leads to 7 points. So it is a huge issue and cause for concern. It just is. Jalen Lane's been a really good punt returner. Kyle Lowe's done a good job. John Love's done a good job. But special teams is giving up points every week.
We have to bat 1,000 here. We really have to bat 1,000 here.
Shoot, bat 700 or 500.
Well, that's what we're doing. We're batting 700, and there's one blunder a game. There's probably 10.
Yeah, I guess that is 700.
Probably 15 special teams plays a game. No, way more than that. That was some poor math. We got to bat 1,000. It's Virginia Tech. Just because we had a blocked punt and Jay Lane, returns a punt that same game, doesn't mean special teams is off the hook. We gotta figure that out. It was really tough walking out of that stadium not having a dub. This has been a tough year, guys, because the media cycle all summer, Virginia Tech, they're the dark horse. Virginia Tech, I'm really excited. Josh Pate, Pat McAfee. Was it not Stuart Mandel? Who's the other guy on ESPN with Reese Davis? Name slipping my mind right now. He's like the Woj for college football these days for ESPN.
Oh, McMurphy.
No. Yeah, McMurphy's good. No, Pete Thamel. It was Pete Thamel. Everyone was gassing us up. People are excited. Hey, Virginia Tech, schedule kind of lines up favorably. 2-2 at this point of the season. Every single casual fan who was nibbling on the carrot of kind of being back in or exploring what this team would be about. If you didn't lose them at Vanderbilt, you've certainly lost them now. Anyone who hung on after Vandy is gone now. If you're a casual fan and you're listening to this podcast at 2-2, I salute you, and we're going to relegate you from casual to diehard because, man, this is tough.
You're gonna have to earn it. You're gonna have to earn it back. I think I had a couple of people who were like, I'm gonna find something different to do with my Saturdays. And look, guys, if you're listening to this podcast and we sound super negative and super defeated, I think it's fair to feel that way. And I think a large portion of this fan base feels that way. Whether the expectations were fair or not fair, I don't think that I was judging the success on this season as, are we going to make the playoffs or not? I think I really just want to see improvement week over week and year over year. And I think we haven't seen either of those up until this point. It looks to be regression so far from basically when I look at last year, I look at Pittsburgh forward. Is that fair? You can say whatever you want. We switched quarterbacks, a couple of times and had to reinvent ourselves. We're able to do so. And we're a really, really good football team. Do we play awesome teams? Not a lot of them, but we handled business. And we had an identity. We had a swagger about us. We had a culture that looked like it was building upon itself. So I think a lot of people are rightfully so very let down. When I look at this September, this so far, in my opinion, has been worst case scenario. The product that we have, the win and loss record, and it doesn't get any easier. We play Miami on Friday. So, yeah, that's where we are.
Miami, the team that's averaging 52 points a game right now. They've scored over 50 3 times already this football season. So we'll see how that goes. But I love Coach Pry. I don't love these numbers since Coach Pry got here. And we know 2022 was essentially a wash. 2023 was going to be a mixed bag. 2024, akin to these expectations, like, if you're swinging back, you got to follow through. 1-9 in one-score games. And 0-13 went down at halftime. So when we tied that football game yesterday with that second miraculously scripted 2-point conversion, just taking a look at the data, we're going to figure out how to mess it up. One win as an underdog. Liberty 2022 is the only win over the last 2.5 seasons that Virginia Tech has won against as an underdog.
And the 2 losses that we have this year were as favorites. Virginia Tech was favored against Vanderbilt by multiple scores. Virginia Tech was anywhere between 3 and 4 point favorites against Rutgers. So, look, yeah, it's brutal. Do you have anything else before I get to a couple of gripes?
Like I will be.
Those are the numbers. I mean, they're awful numbers.
Yeah, no, I think. I mean, you and I are going to be at the rest of the home games. We're going to Duke. We're not turning our backs at all. But a lot of the fan base is so fed up,
Yeah.
And yeah. I mean, I even saw back to the standing thing, the sitting versus standing thing with the seat backs in the East stands. Like, they're called the East stands. Like to stand up at the game. But a season ticket holder in East has been to both games, and he said that both games this year he has been asked to sit down by 2 different people. Losing the fan base across the board. That's never been synonymous with Virginia Tech, or at least the Virginia Tech that I think I know.
I don't know. Might have to chat with that. I mean, I'm not trying to sound like, Johnny Bravo over here, but I wish somebody would ask me to sit down. Couple of gripes. And I'll preface this by saying, look, we did not play near well enough or deserve to win this football game. Those are 2 facts. And we got away with one on Tootin's first touchdown. We got away by maybe the most egregious holding call I've seen in a long time that wasn't called. That happened literally right in front of the play. It was unbelievable. I can't believe I didn't even celebrate the touchdown because I said this is coming back. This is holding, and it wasn't. This is not holding. This is home.
I was going to say.
And however, number one, not sure the lane fumble was a fumble. Wrist hit the ground, which I thought caused the fumble. I'm pretty sure the fumbling forward disadvantaged us in the Vanderbilt game where they gained a first down off of a fumble being advanced. And then we fumbled forward twice and they returned the ball to where it originally was. Am I tripping or did that happen?
Two things happened in this football game that I thought were absolutely diabolical. One, the fumbling forward thing that clearly worked in our disadvantage at Vanderbilt and our disadvantage here, where we weren't able to benefit from either. But it seemed like the two calls went against each other. And then two, I'm going to steal your thunder here. That PI call on Mansour Delane
Egregious
game on 3rd down and 12 was out of control.
Maybe the worst call. It was a complete phantom call. It was I'm actually, somebody tweeted at us a great angle of it. I have no idea what this ref called. It was awful.
Really, really not a good job by that ref.
Another question that I have, what will the Hokies go viral for? It's like my least favorite new game that's coming to CBS or ACC Network or ESPN.
Viral moment of the month.
What's the viral moment of the month? I can't do this anymore, man. I mean, we had the ODU, the first time we lost to ODU in 2018,
which was a special teams blunder,
which was awful. Oh no, I'm talking about way back.
Oh yeah. Oh no.
So that's a viral moment. Losing to Duke 45-10 at a whiteout at night on a nationally televised game. That was on a Thursday. It was on a Friday, right?
Friday.
It was on a Friday night.
That was honoring the 99
team in front of the whole country. You get walked off by Liberty at home. That was brutal.
That was special teams too.
These are not also like, oh man, remember this in Hokie history? This is like, no, everybody in college football is talking about these things. ODU disaster, choke after the choking guy, the ODU fan who did the choke sign. That was awful. Biggest spread team to lose outright in week 1. I think we were the only team that lost as a double-digit favorite. I think they went like 88-1, and we were the one. And then this week, it's the drones safety throw. I do have to say it was incredibly impressive how far he threw the ball. Like the amount of core strength to do that was unbelievable. I'd love to see him do like a sit up with a medicine ball. He'd probably throw it through a cinder block. But
he pretty much got rolled up on by his own guy.
Yeah. So
and it's essentially like they were comparing it to the Dan Orlovsky safety. This was like all you need is the Chris Berman sound effect.
Yeah. What? Last thing before we get to closing comments. And again, I just want to reiterate. I hate this. I hate talking about this. I hate watching it. I hate spending money all weekend and leaving feeling like this. But a lot has to change in the product, and I believe the preparation and the scheme. Those 3 things are absolutely true. And the constant is that so many people care so much and so many people show up and scream on 3rd down and shake their keys on 3rd down and high five and hug for touchdown. Like the product does not equal the environment right now. That is the God honest truth. We saw it last year when it did. And that is why people feel this way, because they're so bought in and they care so much. And it's a really tough watch right now. And if we want to look ahead for a second, like we haven't even played ACC play yet. So there's a lot you can still accomplish, but you will not accomplish those things in behaving this way. Like
status quo will not be the status quo.
It's kind of like look, you got a 58 on your midterm exam. You can still turn it around and pass the class. But if you continue to do none of your homework and get zeros every time, you will not pass the class. I think that is a good comparison. We're not doing the homework, and we failed the midterm. So start doing the homework and get like a C on the final, and you'll pass the class. That's literally all you need to do.
It seems like you're speaking from experience there, baby.
I've been in some. I rebounded from some nightmare midterms, but
I was gonna say office hours.
Office hours. Bring your clicker. Like raise your hand, ask a question, sit in the front. So we need to start.
Show up early, stay late,
make an impact. Can we talk about the presser? I just think it. I think it has to be talked about. And let me just set the table real quick. UNC absolutely embarrassed themselves against JMU. They lost to JMU 70-50, and they should be embarrassed. But I have to tip my cap to Mac Brown. I listened to his presser because I'm anticipating like Mac, maybe he's not knowing what's going on. There's balloons in the photo. And I'm like, who put balloons behind Mac Brown after losing 70-50? And I gotta be honest, his opening statement is what you would hope to hear, I guess, if you're one of the 50 UNC football fans that are out there. Like immediately, this was an embarrassing day. It was a shocking day. You cannot be at North Carolina and lose a game to a group of 5 team at home. The defense was awful. Can only come back to one person. It's me. I hired everybody in the building. I hired everybody on the staff. I signed every football player. I am 100% at fault. Questions. If you go ahead and you listen to a Ryan Day press conference, if you listen to a Kalen LeBourne press conference, if you listen to insert coach of good program with a ton of respect, they command the press conference and seem so in control and so if something bad happens, it's not the same conversation over and over and over again. And I feel like we're getting the same conversation over and over and over again in these press conferences, and it almost makes you feel worse. Like you have the game and you get punched in the forehead, like super hard. Like that already sucks. Like, ow, my head hurts. And then Casey calls me, our Ohio State buddy, and he goes, hey, man, tough game. Tough game. Did you see the presser? Don't watch the presser. I was like, oh. And I watched the presser. It's a rough presser.
It's Groundhog Day. The pressers are Groundhog Day. And again, listen, the press conferences, it's something that the coach has to do, right? Like, yeah. You can very much look at this and overanalyze the press conference, right?
Yeah.
Press conference does not equal the Monday to Friday prep.
Right.
The press conference is not a representation of what's going on.
It's also a non-factor if you win, by the way. I just want to mention that too.
Non-factor if you win. But just like anything else, people are going to analyze every single detail of the program that is not on the positive side when the program is getting tallies in the L column. And I need to see some of that Mac Brown. I need to see some of that Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly showed up to the presser and looked pissed off and looked embarrassed and looked like he gave a shit. Like, as a fan, I don't want to be thanked for showing up. I've been showing up since 1994. I don't need to be thanked. That's kind of just whether or not I get a thank you, I'm going to be there. I don't want the thank you. The talk is fine. I need action and I need execution and I need preparation. And the lack of showing up to the podium and appearing to be visibly pissed off, it's not there.
I think in a lot of manners too, it's almost like this is a crazy comparison, but like if a national tragedy happens, which this is not, we lost a football game, but if a national tragedy happens or during COVID or anything, a lot of the country, when they're gauging their reaction, is looking to somebody who's going to get behind a microphone, and that will either make you feel worse or feel better or feel nothing. And every single time those pressers happen, I think it leaves everybody feeling worse. And
I'm proud of how the guys came back, and I think we improved at a few things, and we need to put it all together.
It's just tough. It's a tough listen.
It's the same thing every loss. It's
a tough listen.
And it's like I was like Coach Beamer, when we would lose games, we were one block, one tackle away, a couple plays away, a play here, a play there. But these were against LSU, USC, Ohio State. These were football teams that were in the top 15. We were winning 10 games. Like a play here, a play there, a special teams blunder here. These are in games that we are not supposed to be losing the football game. We are favored in these football games. And at the end of the day, going into Saturday, we were 1-8 in one-score games. And now we're 1-9 in one-score games. And I didn't feel like we're going to be 2-9 the next time. I feel like we're going to be 1-10 the next time. And we're going to be having this conversation again.
Closing comments I have on the game, and then we're both going to take a deep breath and do letters from lunch bail. This was the worst case scenario for September. We're 2-2. We're one game better than we were through 4 games in 2023. We've lost 2 games as favorites so far. We have to play Miami at Miami on Friday night. We're 17.5-point road pups. Again, everything is like still ahead of us, but again, stuff must change. I actually think it would be behooved of this staff, because if you go ahead and you read the post-game like comments, like under our tweet or anywhere, everybody's calling because again, people are mad. Everybody's like, fire X, or we should fire everybody. Your typical we lost a game response. I do think though, I would strongly encourage and honestly be pretty surprised if we don't see some sort of announcement, whether it is true or just a posture move to, hey, we're putting Coach Bowen on the field so he can make adjustments quicker. We brought in some analyst, or we're having this specific coach reorganize our pass game. Like some sort of outward message on, hey, here's how we're fixing this. Because again, in these press conferences, it's, we're going to have our guys take a look at it and we got to find out how to be better. I think for a lot of people, they want something quantifiable. To me, I don't care. It doesn't make a difference to me. I think it's just win the game or lose the game. But I think it would really help from a PR perspective to just say, hey, so-and-so was in the box. We're moving him down the field. Here's why. And that's what's happening. I think that would be a good move. And teams do that kind of stuff all the time. Can we both take a deep breath? That was really hard. I know that was probably a tough listen. To be honest, it was a tough sit through on Saturday. So we'll both take a deep breath. Oh, okay. All right, let's take this home because I got dinner ready. But we're gonna run through some letters to lunch pail and just talk about the town real quick. Real quick, Taven Keys. What will it take?
You think it's Taven? I think it's Tavin. I
Tavin,
think it's like Gavin with the T.
Sure.
Tavin
Keys.
Key play.
What will it take for our offensive game plan to change? Seems like it's clear our best playmakers aren't getting the ball enough. I agree. But our play calling has not changed. I don't know what our game plan is. I don't know what we're coming out and saying, hey, this is what we want to do. Here's how we're going to do it. This is what it looks like. I don't know what that is. So I have a hard time answering this question, but I do think that our playmakers are not getting the ball enough. And I'm not even speaking about Tootin. I think Tootin in game 1 and in the first quarter of this previous game didn't get the ball enough. I'm talking more specifically about our wide receivers.
I think it's the glaring thing is Felton. Like Daquan Felton had 8 touchdowns last year. Mm-hmm. And today, September 22nd, 4 games in, he's gotten the ball 10 times.
Yeah. This was the most he was targeted all year, by the way. And we just didn't connect. We had the drop on the final drive, which was a huge deal. We didn't talk about this in the podcast, but if you're in 2 minute you can't drop the ball on an automatic first down. Like the most important thing on a 2-minute drive is that first completion, that first down. And we kind of sputtered out after that. But yeah, I don't think we're getting the ball enough to our playmakers on the outside.
The longest play all year for Felton is 12 yards. It's just mind-blowing. He's the deep ball guy.
Yeah.
Obviously, I know he was missed on a few deep balls yesterday. Yeah. But it was not.
That's getting him the ball. It's not like Daquan. Like we're just not getting the ball. I don't care whose fault it is. It's just these guys aren't seeing the ball.
It's not happening. Matt Schaller.
Breath, and I'm like mad again. I know. Virginia Tech has 34 first half points and 84 second half points through 4 games. Wow. Let me read that again. Virginia Tech has 34 first half points versus 84 second half points through 4 games. What's the catalyst? You can argue good adjustments are being made at halftime, but how can the awful starts on offense be fixed? I have no idea. I truly do not. I do think that we scheme well coming out of the locker room. I do think against ODU and Marshall specifically, and quite honestly, Vanderbilt as well. Here's my answer. Vanderbilt, Marshall, Old Dominion, I think we are deeper than those 3 teams by such a significant margin that they ran out of gas and we scored a bunch of points in the second half. Vanderbilt guys were getting hurt the entire game. They must have had some third string guys in on defense. And then Marshall and ODU, you're more talented than those teams. With Rutgers just completely self-destructed in the second half. Like the stuff that they did, I'm serious. Like Rutgers fans would be freaking out on Greg Schiano if they lost this game. I'm not taking anything away from Greg Schiano. They had a great scheme and everything. Some of the times that they went for it and some of the things that happened put themselves in a position to lose a game they had no business losing. We lost the explosive battle, we lost the turnover battle, and still almost won the game, which usually comes down to weird stuff happening and weird coaching decisions, which Rutgers had both of. John Sellers, love this question. Your thoughts on our toughness? Did this game make us harder and softer? My thoughts are our football team lacks toughness. That's it. I have no idea if this made us tougher or softer. I know that we were soft yesterday.
I know we have a lot of talent on this football team. I know that this team has been tough and been challenged last year. And I say challenge kind of tongue in cheek because none of those teams that we beat last year were really that great. Mm-hmm. But we have some tough guys on this team, but I don't see the unit. I don't see tough units. I don't see a tough unit, a cohesive
defensive line is the only unit that I feel like is. Like those guys are dogs. But again, it just seems like when one unit's doing well, like 4 other units are not doing their job. And I think a large portion of our problem is just do your job. I do want to say this, John, because I think one thing that I said was unfair. It takes toughness to come back in a football game when you're down, we were down 23 to 7, whatever it was. So we came back there, came back at Vanderbilt.
The defense kept us in the football game.
That is true. So I do want to say that there was toughness displayed on that specifically, to be fair. But I think for 4 quarters of football, we are not a hard-nosed, tough football team. We don't exhibit those qualities.
Not yet. Not yet, at least. Not yet. So to wrap things up here, before we talk about our weekend in Blacksburg and shout-outs, I think that you talked about us being at the worst-case scenario right now through 4 games. We have 8 games left. They're all ACC games. We played well in the ACC last fall. We turned a corner at home against Pittsburgh. We have a great opportunity to do the same thing, figure some things out, play 4 quarters of football, and still have a good season, okay? If you guys have seen Kicking and Screaming, all they needed was Gian Piero and Massimo from the butcher shop. They had an awful team, and they figured it out, and they won the championship, okay? So I'm not saying we need to go hire Mike Ditka to come and be an analyst on our staff. But if changes are implemented this week in practice, and these guys are having excellent and elite weeks of practice and not just good or great, which I don't know what we're having or not, because I'm not in the facility. I'm excited to see what's going to happen at the end of September and into ACC play. And I think every diehard Hokie who's still going to turn on the TV on ACC Network on Friday night, like myself, like Billy Ray,
I will be at a wedding, but yes.
You had to kill the flow.
The point is so true. We're going to go to every home game. We want the team to be better. We know the team is capable of being better. If the team wasn't capable of being better, we wouldn't get on here and freak out. Like, we have not played up to our potential. We have an opportunity to play up to our potential, and we have yet to lose a game in conference. I can still be upset we lost to Vanderbilt and Rutgers, but doesn't change the fact I'm rooting for this team. I want this team to do well. I want Coach Pride to do well. I want everybody to succeed. Everybody. And there's a level of care and buy-in and just pageantry with Virginia Tech that is abnormal. And we need the expectations and the results to live up to that. That's it.
I want to see you guys here in Charlotte in December. Our goals are still in front of us. Obviously, it's going to be a tremendous challenge on Friday night with the best team in the conference. It would be the most Virginia Tech thing ever to go out there and play to our level of competition and give them a hard-fought game, and who knows what can happen. Excited to see it, and I will be watching.
In person and remote. Okay, we're going to shift before shout-outs, we're going to shift over to the town of Blacksburg. And our experience, we're speaking from our experience. We were there. We spoke to other students about their experience. Before we do that, because we don't like being negative without coming with solutions. So, Pat, can you just, in the preamble of this, discuss how we're presenting a solution for what we perceive to be challenges within the town of Blacksburg?
Yeah, I encourage you guys, if you are listening or if you have access to where we're posting this, either on YouTube or on Twitter or on our website, a survey about retail strategies. So the Blacksburg Partnership, they are in favor of making it a pleasant experience for everyone who comes to Virginia Tech, whether it's game day weekend, whether it's graduation weekend. But Retail Strategies is a nation-leading community and economic development consulting firm. They're collaborating with the town of Blacksburg on revitalizing downtown and also Blacksburg's overall retail recruitment and business retention strategy. You, as a fan or a resident or an alum, your input, we are looking to solicit your input right now. We will post a link in the article. We will post a link on Twitter. If you have an opinion on your experience on Friday night, waiting 2 hours for dinner, at the Cellar or PK's or wherever you were, if you saw lines out the door at 16 different restaurants on Main Street and it was either positive or negative, you can express how you feel about it in this survey. So we will make sure that this survey goes out. Essentially,
I'll say too, I'm going to fill it out because I'm about to complain. I'm on the heels of complaining right now. I'm going to complain, but I'm also going to fill out the survey. So there's nothing worse than complaining and being asked to, help get to a solution, and you're still complaining but not doing the solution. So if you have a problem with it or you love it, we encourage you to fill this out.
And this is coming from the town of Blacksburg. They want you guys to know that people are listening and actively working on solutions to make this town we absolutely adore the best that it could possibly be. So that said, Billy Ray, speak about your experience.
I put this tweet out, I think at like 11:30 on Friday night. Downtown Blacksburg was an abject disaster. It was a disaster. Every single line to get in anywhere was a minimum of 25 minutes. I'll speak about our experience and I'll speak about some experience of others. Number one, try to get to the cellar. And this is no disrespect to these businesses, no disrespect to the people working at these businesses or anything. I think that it's simply a volume issue. Cellar, hour and a half wait to get into the cellar. Maroon door. We had friends that waited an hour to get into the maroon door and didn't get food for an hour after sitting down. We had some friends who went over to Centro. They arrived at Centro when we arrived at PK's. We sat down and ate and drank at PK's after waiting 20 minutes in line, and they were still in line to get into Centro an hour and a half after arriving at Centro. An hour and a half. They stood in line to get into Centro in Blacksburg, Virginia. Pat, we left this morning and we went to First Watch in Christiansburg, and we signed up online to get in line. And at that time, they had a 3-hour wait in Christiansburg to get breakfast. Before I go off, I just want to say it was an unpleasant experience. I enjoyed my time at PK's. I enjoyed my time at the cellar. I enjoyed my time at Tots. But it is an unpleasant experience because it is very difficult to do anything at all in the town of Blacksburg Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It detracts from the overall product. That is a fact. So move on, please, with the issues we have.
So I put out there, I said, the school is expanding. School's added 7,000 students over the last 15 years and has not added additional restaurants or additional bars or places to go on Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. And it makes for a tough game day weekend experience.
Nothing about that is a lie.
Is that controversial? That might be the least controversial thing I've put on the internet in the last week.
No.
So I get tweeted at from Raphael Devers fan account, who Henry
You just said his name. You just said his name.
I know.
Oh, okay.
Spare me the woe is me from folks because the 6 weekends of the year they're in town, the town doesn't bend over backwards for them. Come on, man. Come on. So
honestly, Pat, it's a complete bullshit. It's a complete bullshit point. I mean, a couple issues with this. All you said was it makes for an unpleasant game day experience. This is true. Second of all, Pat, and I'm in this boat with you, we go to Blacksburg all the time.
We go to Blacksburg probably 12 times a year, which is
more than
20% of weekends.
Pat, we go more than that. Men's basketball games, women's basketball games, summertime, we are there all the time. Also, we talk to students all the time. Students will tell you who go to the school every single weekend how unpleasant it is to go to these bars, to try to go out. It is not fun. That's not only 6 weekends a year. We're obviously not as naive to just think we're just talking about 6 weekends a year. The data point is there are more students. There are not more businesses. This makes it not as fun to go out. It's not difficult math. It's not difficult to understand. It's not difficult to wrap your head around. We have 15 vape shops, but we have 8 bars. We have a massive Moe's on Main Street, and we don't have a bar to support the amount of people that are going out to the bars.
We don't need to plant our flag in bars. How about just a restaurant?
Yeah.
Restaurants.
Yeah. And we did have some other people chime in saying, well, what are these businesses supposed to do when, summertime is here and the students aren't here? I'm sorry. I've been to Athens. I've been to Athens, Georgia. I've been to Oxford. I have been to Clemson, South Carolina. I'm not saying Baton Rouge, not saying Gainesville. I'm not saying these massive towns. I've been to very similar towns to Blacksburg. I encourage you to go to Clemson. I encourage you to go to Oxford. I encourage you to go. Athens is probably a bad comp, but Oxford and Clemson are good comps. They have figured it out. Okay.
Has Clemson? Do you know what Clemson's like on a game day weekend?
I don't know what it's like on a game day weekend, but I've been there when students were in town, and there's a healthy, like, it looks healthier on how people are being distributed and your ability to go do things in the town. I'll be at Stanford this weekend, or I'll be at Clemson Stanford this weekend in Clemson, South Carolina. So I'll gauge it. But I think it's clear and fair to say there's a problem. We're presenting you an option on how to weigh in to fix it, but there is clearly an issue.
Well, and clearly, I don't know how much unpacking of this was done when, hey, let's just dump 7,000 more students into Virginia Tech and hope the town scales. Like, a massive cause with a massive effect, but no plan.
You couldn't even put them in dorms. Like,
it was an aberration. The
it
whole
really was
thing in 2015.
I don't know also, and this isn't just a Henry thing. This is everybody. Who are we sticking up for? Like, are we like, because we're very clearly not anti the businesses. We're very clearly not anti the school. We're just saying, I don't care. It's kind of like our offense. I don't care whose fault it is. It just has to get better. It's not good enough. That's it. And again, this is not siloed to 6 weekends a year. We do not. It's like that meme. You don't have the facilities to handle that, big man. That's what we don't have the facilities to handle the amount of people that are in this town, not only on game day weekends, it's exacerbated on game day weekends, but they have the same problem when students are on campus. That's it. That is it. And it seems like the school and the town have completely different visions for what this town needs to be. Newsflash, the only reason Blacksburg, Virginia exists is because there's a university there. You would be a cow pasture if there wasn't a major university there. Love cow pastures. Love it. But you got to scale with the school or it's going to be an awful experience for everybody.
You need a plan. And here's the thing, like, we could do finger pointing and have these stupid Twitter back and forths of, well, I can't believe you would ever think like that. Like, okay, well, I'm having a bad experience, which means someone who comes back once every 5 years or maybe once a year is also probably having a bad experience. Why is that not? Why are we not putting that under the microscope and saying, okay, let's figure it out? I am in the camp that people shouldn't have any bad experiences. So less waiting in line, more opportunities to put money into the economy in Blacksburg, and ultimately fill our bellies with great food from the cellar. You're muted. You're muted. You're still muted.
I'll wrap it up with this. I've enjoyed every in-person interaction with Henry. I have. I understand the Red Sox have had a really tough end to this season. You are extremely negative on the internet. It does not align with the smiley guy that I see in person. And I just implore you to find some joy. And I think we can all find joy with some shoulder room at a bar in Blacksburg together if we simply expand smarter. Or we can have hors d'oeuvres at a restaurant, whatever it is.
I'm buying the first round, Henry. Please.
Yes.
Please let me.
Sharkies, shout outs, and then I'm going to bed. You want to go first?
As we do every weekend when we can get into the establishment, or if it's just walking around campus on game day, either ran into or met some fantastic Virginia Tech Hokies this weekend.
Yep.
And every single time you guys say, hey, been listening to your guys' show for 4 or 5 years. Loved your take on this. Hey, glad you guys are a little more objective now. That's awesome. Cool. Yeah. We figured ourselves out a little bit. But no, seriously. Like Brooks and Billy, the Schmitz. I met them this weekend. Headed into the gate. Talked to them for 15 minutes as we were getting crowded in the stadium. Awesome guys. What was fun at Tots on Friday night? I get grabbed by this guy. He's like, yo, It's on the Saturday, guys. Our guy Keyshav, who we met, Carolina game, week 1, 2021. This was the game, the first game after COVID, where the students kind of just like we're all up in section 5 and section 3. Like, we're like, how did all these students get down here? It was kind of like a crazy thing. He was a freshman, first football game at Virginia Tech with, his hallmate, Sally and Johnny. And they're just down there. And I'm wearing my new section 5 hat. It's our first game back with COVID. And he's so fired up. He's like, listen, if we win this game, like, can I have your hat? Dude, absolutely. Like, you can absolutely have my hat. So we win the football game. Students rush the field. It's their best memory of college, like, without a doubt. Like, everyone who is in that era of studenthood will definitely express that as, a Mount Rushmore experience of their time, I would think. So we run into Keyshav. He's like, yo, I'm a senior now. Like, I just turned 21 this summer. I forget when he turned 21, but just turned 21. And he was like, this is crazy, man. Like, I haven't seen you guys like since, but like, I know you guys still do it. Like, that's so awesome. Like, it was just the coolest thing. So we had a picture with him. I probably should have pulled it up and put it on.
We'll post it.
Yeah, we'll put it on Twitter this week. And got another picture with him. He said he still has the hat. I was like, you better wear it to the game tomorrow. So awesome to run into our guy Keyshav. Ran into some great Navy guys. I think seniors and 5th years in the Corps at PK's last night, who were big fans of the show. So you guys keep kicking butt. Other shout outs that I had, my last one is for Grant Perrell. Just takes some really, really, really good photos. We put out some of the Bashal Tootin touchdown photos earlier today, but shout out to Grant. Great having you back in Lane Stadium, taking some really cool pics.
Shout out to Bruce Tomlinson from Nashville. I met him, and also Jason Blanchette from Virginia Beach. I had loved meeting them. And yeah, I mean, I'm really not trying to it means a ton for anybody to come up and say, I listened to you on our ride to work. I appreciate this, appreciate it. It means a lot, and it's a ton of fun. And we are super appreciative that a lot of you let us into your homes, ear canals, cars, wherever you guys are, or gals, and listen and chat about what we all enjoy. Or some of you may hate us. I mean, Rutgers fans were listening and calling us dumb for our Monangai takes. We were right. Tootin was better on Saturday. But yeah, it's super special. It's super awesome. I do want to shout out Willie Kranick for driving down and then leaving at like 7 because he had to go back for an engagement party on Sunday. That sounds awful. But he did it. So that is it. I also want to say she definitely won't hear it. I'll just send the clip. Shout out to Sailor Brown on her birthday. Hope you had an awesome time in Blacksburg. Shout out to the Brown family. Shout out to Montana Marcus, Michael Lumpkin, Cameron Bruker. Had a great time. A lot of coworkers in town. Great time. Please be better. It's so hard to do these.
As a fan, you have every right to be upset.
Yeah.
You have every right to be upset. It's part of being a fan.
Yeah.
But this was not easy, and I'm looking forward to Friday night and 60 more minutes of football, and hoping we take what we learned and we're better because of it. So
I didn't see your sub name until right now. Bashal Doak Walker Tootin. Let's do this again because we did it last time. If you're still listening, comment raspberry in the comments on YouTube. Throw us a like, throw us a subscribe.
I'm just going to say, join the Section 5 club.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Tough ask after a loss.
I know. We will see you guys to preview Miami shortly. Go Hokies. Go Mets. They're hot. And beat the Canes.